Hello, hello. We're jumping in with a quick weekend news update. A bunch of stuff kind of went down just after the last update, and then there's been some follow-ups, some odds and ends since then. So let's get right into it. Let's get to the big item first. There was a floor rules update just a little bit over a week ago, and certainly the running theme of this update is that they are worried about how long events are taking. They're possibly worried about being able or unable to book certain venues depending on time constraints. We've had some cases where venues have been trying to kick us out throughout last year, and the event was still ongoing. So they're doing a bunch of stuff to that end. They're going to go down to 50-minute rounds, plus a 10-minute overtime, down from 60 minutes plus a 10-minute overtime, so people are going to have to play a little bit faster. They also want to introduce a time limit to top cut matches. At least the non-finals. The finals can still take as long as it's going to take, but for the intermediary rounds, for the top 8, top 16, top 4, there's going to be a 90-minute soft time limit. If after 90 minutes the match is still on game 2, then it will just be called. Whoever's up 1-0 is going to win that match. If they are on game 3 at that point, then they're going to let the players play 3 additional turns after the current one and then call it after that. So they're expecting, I guess, most matches to hopefully be on game 3 by then. If you are up 1-0 and you can stall out, then I guess you are welcome to do so. Hopefully the judges still get on those people for slow play and that sort of thing. They're also reducing the size of top cuts at certain player counts. So the notion of a top 32 cut is gone entirely. We're just not going to do that. And there's going to be top 8 cuts are going to run up to, I believe, 128 players now instead of going to top 16 as soon as we hit 65. They've changed how they're gonna do open deck lists, or at the very least, they've opened the door to just allowing players to look at their opponent's deck before a top cut match, as opposed to promising that they're going to have them all posted online after Swiss, because that did not always happen last year. That did not very often happen last year, actually. So instead of trying to make that happen, at the end of every Saturday or in the middle of Sunday in some cases, they're just going to, if they need to, they'll just let people look at the opponent's deck for a few minutes before their match. They also laid out some details of how they want to do these mixed format regionals. And I'll go through it for explanation's sake. There was enough blowback on this that they, both public and I'm sure plenty in private, that they have gone ahead and posted that they are going to look at this. They may revise it. They're going to announce what they're going to do or what they're not going to do on Wednesday. But what was laid out was that after a certain number of rounds of Swiss, basically however many would normally be -3, they're going to take the top 32 players, they're going to draft, and everybody else, the tournament is just going to be over for them. And then after that top 32 draft, the top 8 after that, no matter how many players there were, would go on to the actual top cut constructed, based on their combined constructed Swiss and draft Swiss records. There's some math issues with that. In particular, the most glaring thing is that the way that works at certain player counts, if you don't have enough draws, right? If you have a relatively low number of draws and your player count is sort of close to the next tier, then you're probably going to eliminate a bunch of X1 players from your Swiss event, and that is not how Swiss is supposed to work. So there's a lot of objection to that. On top of just the, even if that math did work, you're telling people that their main event is only going to be 3 or 4 rounds, depending, if lower numbers of players show up. And then you're putting a lot of emphasis on, hopefully the side events are really cool events that people want to play in with good prizing, which hasn't not consistently been the case. And then on top of that, you have the people that never want to draft to be part of regionals to begin with. So yeah, there was, a lot of pushback on this. So that, they're going to look at their options. As noted before, they seem to be very, very, very concerned about the amount of time that these events are taking, without knowing the details, because they haven't laid any of this out for us specifically. We don't know if, there's like a lack of creativity there, or if they should be as concerned as they are. They haven't really explained any of this, outside of just pushing the update out there, and then the one note the other day that's saying they might change it. So we'll see what they say on Wednesday. Maybe we'll, actually get some information behind, what is going into their thinking here. It's just a lot of guesswork right now. But that's it for the whole flow rules update and ensuing fiasco, as it were. Various other updates. So they clarified, so these Yu Hakusho release events that are ongoing right now. The winner of each sealed event gets an invite to the Wish tournament in a couple of weeks. And, some questions came up of, what if there's two 201s? What if there's two 3-0s? A lot of stores will just do 3 rounds for these events, especially for a sealed event where they're giving people a bunch of time to build their decks. It'd be a long event to try to do 4 rounds in, so a lot of stores are just doing 3 rounds and not having a top cut or anything. And if you have 2 3-0 players, it comes down to tiebreakers, that kind of stuff. So they're going to give the invite to both 3-0s. If you have a situation where there's 2 3-0 players after 3 rounds, I believe that extends to if you have like a couple 201s. If there's more than 2 people tied, the tiebreakers are just going to resolve that. Just your normal Swiss tiebreakers. But they've opened the door to having 2 invites from a given event if there is a tie situation. They've also finally updated the organized play page on the website, which has been showing events from last summer up until recently. And they did not post the Season 1 regionals on them. We don't know why they did not post the Season 1 regionals on their organized play page when they updated it. We still also don't know anything about the venues for these events or, any other those sorts of specifics. So, presumably they're still happening. I don't know if it's just so dramatically hard to update this webpage that they're afraid that they won't be able to update it again until August or something. Very bizarre decision to update their upcoming events and skip the ones that are actually upcoming. But in any event, it's better than it was. At least it's not, it doesn't look like the game died 6 months ago, so that's progress. They still have a lot of love and care that they need to give to that website pretty badly at this point. The next thing, they have announced some Day Zero errata and some very small rules updates for the Dark Tournament release. Basically, they just added Desperation and Safe to the rulebook because those are on some of their retro reprint cards. They've also done some errata. 3 Eyes of Hiei is a misprint. They are going to stick with having that be a 6 check. The reprint version of it had a 5 check on it instead of the original has a 6. They decided instead of MRPing the card, maybe a big part of the reason they reprinted it was they really cared about that 6 check or whatever, so they're going to say it is a 6 check. Even though, the card itself has a big 5, they've never errated a number like that on a card before. It's a bit of an unusual errata to be making, but people, I imagine there's going to be a lot of demand for the original copies. People will figure it out, they'll get used to it. If you're playing 3 Eyes of Hiei in your deck, you should be aware of this, basically, right? And so they're counting on you to know that your opponent's not going to be... hopefully your opponent doesn't scout your deck and think they're not putting a 6 on top or something like that. But for the most part, because of the nature of checks, that is a number they can errata without it being too weird, probably. But also, speaking of Hiei, they tried to fix his effect text and kind of did. He now clarifies that he cancels the block status, so that when he discards the block from the card pool, it actually, stops the attack from being blocked by that particular block. There's no rules added around what canceling a block status means or any specifics about that, so it's still a little bit of what the card's supposed to do, so just go with it kind of energy. But it is improved over what it was before. There's still a bunch of questions about certain types of effects and how they interact with this, because reprinting Harnessing Chaos was a very bad idea. But they'll have to deal with those as they go on. It's going to be a lot of rules gymnastics that they have signed up for here. They also added Absorbed Energy Spirit Strikes for what, as far as I can tell, no actual reason. So now it discards your opponent's momentum and gets a damage bonus equal to that momentum's difficulty. Now it checks the difficulty of the top card of their discard pile instead of the difficulty of the momentum that was discarded. They seemed to think that there was some reason why that wouldn't work before, when it would have worked just fine, but they have made that change. So if there's anything that gets in there that manipulates the top card of the discard pile in between the effect being played and going off, then you're going to have a new number up there, basically. So the card is going to work a little bit differently. Also, we have some Critical Role update stuff coming. So we have they've announced Critical Role Enhanced video is going to be coming out on Tuesday, and in the meantime, we're getting some art previews. It looks like they're basically just posting all of each character's arts one at a time. So we had Vaxildon, if I am not misremembering the name here. All of his art was posted yesterday. Today, at time of recording, I assume we'll get Vixalia's art at some point today. And then, the way this is going, I imagine the next couple of days we'll get the other two arts from Mighty 9, or maybe they'll be a little more spread out than that. We'll see. But one of the arts is above. It's pretty good. It's all custom art for this release, because obviously there's only so... I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of existing art assets, but not too many official ones, right? So, got all custom art for this release. Pretty cool. Very good art. Once again, I'm pretty excited to have, even though I don't know anything about Critical Role, really, I'm excited to have just sort of a general fantasy IP in this game. And so that should be pretty cool. So, look forward to that Critical Role Enhanced video on Tuesday. We'll probably get some more card previews there, and they'll ramp into some sort of Critical Role preview season after that. And then we'll get some more information about what they're doing for these regionals on Wednesday. I wouldn't get our hopes up too much. They might decide to change nothing. They might decide to make a very small change, like maybe add a round of Swiss or something. So don't get too crazy with whatever you're hoping that it's going to be. It will probably not be exactly that, but we'll see what they do. All right, until then, have a nice weekend.